ninth-round pick out of the Citadel in 1981, Stump carved out a successful NFL career with the Cardinals.
He's strong. He can move. He was agile. He can make guys miss. I mean, he had it all. He had everything in the game.
In Cardinals franchise history, only Larry Fitzgerald has more all-purpose yards.
He did it all, man.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Browns fans, Browns backers, Browns worldwide. Welcome to the Stump Talk podcast, Running Back University. We have a special guest. We're welcoming into our humble home, Joseph from the podcast The Real. He's one of our supporters and our extended family. Hello, Sapphire, Coach Stump, and the best producer in the world, Russell Johnson. How's everyone doing?
Awesome.
Great.
Fantastic.
Great day. I got to give a shout out to a friend of your show and my show, the Feaster Brothers, Brayton and Bryden. Both got offered by The Ohio State. So great, good day for the Knights. That's why I got this on tonight over
Hello
here.
to the Feaster clan. Hello to Dad Bo.
Yeah.
Joseph, I want to let you know you are part of the most good-looking podcast. So you're not a bad-looking guy yourself. So
I appreciate
take
it.
some pride in that, my friend.
I don't got the look Stump has, though. I mean, if I had a beard game like that, I think I'd be solid. I'd probably have like 10 women hitting me up every day, and
Yeah, his strength is in his beard for sure.
Yeah, Stump, he's got the aura.
I want to open up this podcast as a special edition tonight. We wanted to jump on and hit that hot button, what everyone's talking about in the football world. Us Browns fans have been going through a lot. It's kind of like being in a tough relationship. We got tough weather and tough economy, and then the Browns are taking what's left of us after we deal with all that. So off the bat, Coach, I want to get your direct take on the hiring of Todd Monken. Talk to us about not only your experience with him, but tell us about what you think about the hire for the Browns organization. What are they getting with him?
Well, let me make it perfectly clear. I wanted the Browns to be the first to hire two head coaches. I wanted them to hire Todd Monken as the offensive head coach, and I wanted them to hire Coach Jim Schwartz as the defensive head coach. Both of those guys I had an opportunity to work with. Both of them are outstanding. Coach Monken was only there for 1 year, but he did one fantastic job in terms of trying to get everyone on the same page. Unfortunately, the way we conducted business that first year, it just didn't happen. And a lot of that was out of his control. Coach Schwartz has been there. He's galvanized the dang football team, the fans, the coaches that have coached with and for him. It's just a shame that he did not get that opportunity. And hopefully when we wake up in 24 hours, they'll find a way to make that happen.
Sapphire, right away, give us your knee-jerk response. Give us your fan response. You are heavily vested in the Browns with the seating and whatnot.
Well, thanks to Coach Stump, I didn't jump off the 480 bridge when they didn't hire Jim Schwartz, and it was real. I was very vexed because all I could remember of Todd Monken, and it was really just from his time in Baltimore, is that he wasn't consistently using Derrick Henry. So I had a lot of questions about what that's going to look like here. Those were my initial thoughts, but I'm happy that the Browns moved on from you know who. I'm glad that's behind us.
Joseph, welcome again to the show. What are your thoughts on the hire? What was your first response?
I was initially stunned, honestly. I didn't think they would actually do it. I didn't think Andrew Berry, we heard all these reports last week about how the process was going with these essays and all this stuff. And, they may not be dysfunctional, but they function differently than 31 other franchises. So, I thought they would go more of the younger route for a while. I thought it'd be Shieldhouse or Udinsky, but as I got closer, you start looking at the marketing odds and just kind of the rumors. It seemed like, no, they really might go towards Schwartz, or Monken was just hanging around there. You didn't really hear a lot of buzz about him, but he was the first guy they hired or interviewed, excuse me. So, After I thought about it, I really like the hire. I think it's what they needed. He has number one, he's experienced. You look at all the places he's been for decades. He's been all over the place, college, pro, you name it. But he knows the building. He's been here before, like Stump mentioned on my show and on this show all the time. He was there, obviously, and saw the quality of coach he is, and probably should listen to him more that year. But he's an offensive mind. He's been able to adjust different quarterbacks. I mean, Lamar had 41 touchdowns and an MVP under this guy. But I think what happened with that relationship there too, what I've read, it's just Todd's a very outgoing guy. He doesn't hold back what he thinks. And I think Lamar maybe got rubbed the wrong way about that. I think he'll maybe regret that in the future because sometimes you got to be, you take for granted what you have. So I like it. And I think the third thing, I think the most important thing is he's a culture builder. I just get that vibe with him. I think if this guy, if he can come in here from day one, which I expect him to, he can really be. You kind of see what the trend in football is right now. It's the guys with the strongest cultures, college and pro. And you look at like a Kirk Cignetti who just won the national championship. Why can't this guy be the Kirk Cignetti of the NFL? I think he has the capabilities with his. He's got all the experience, the tools. He's got everything he needs.
That's great, Joseph. Coach Stump, could you talk? You've been an advocate of his for. Again, you got out the gate early, as per usual, on the subject matter of football and NFL. But what are some of the things you think Monken would bring to the table in terms of feeding off what Joseph said, culture, his relationship with the quarterback position, and even his play calling? What do you think will happen there?
Well, he's a leader. That's the bottom line. Those guys, Denzel, uh, Miles, they were there. They saw Todd. They knew how he worked. But right now, Mr. Haslam is taking the bullet, saying he made a bad. He took a swung at Deshaun and he missed. He didn't miss. Deshaun had proven in Houston that he could play, that he can win, and now uh, all Deshaun wanted to do was work. He didn't want anybody looking at him as though he was a superstar, and that's how Kevin treated him. Deshaun wanted Kevin to be the best Kevin that he could do. Call the offense that he called for Kirk Keenum. I mean Case Keenum. Uh, that's what Deshaun wanted. Don't try to match wits with me with him. He wanted to be able for Kevin to be at his best, and Deshaun would have been able to be at his best. For him to never have passed for 300 yards under Stefanski, that's terrible. I
Hmm.
mean, that's absolutely terrible. Todd Monk is going to get Deshaun. He's going to get him right. Shador have some good skill sets, but they're going to compete. And the way I see that, I think Deshaun will win out, but you got a heck of a backup in Shador, and now you get the opportunities to see what you want to do after that. But I think with Todd, they go in. I think they win that dang on division. I really do. Like I said, I hope they find some way to be the first ones to have two co-head coaches. They made Deshaun the first uh, all guaranteed contract. They can set history again, and this will be super if they can get that done with Coach Schwartz. He should have been disappointed because when you're talking about playing complimentary football, don't let it just be words. Complimentary football is not going for it on your own 35 or 40-yard line. That's not complimentary football, So now he and Coach Monken will be able to get together and make things happen that Cleveland fans would be really proud of, and the Haslams will as well if they can make that happen.
Russ, I want to go to you and get your thoughts on how do you think Monken's hire will stabilize or destabilize the Browns offense, and how will it affect our quarterback position with Deshaun and Shador and Dylan if he's the third string guy?
I think it'll definitely stabilize, excuse me, the offense. His experience at all levels and being able to coach players up to his skill set, whether he starts Shador, starts Deshaun. My thing is, it'll be interesting to see what he thinks about Dylan Gabriel and what they do with Gabriel. Do they trade him? and draft another quarterback, a little bit more athletic, what his preference. But I think once he gets the guys in the room, offense, defense, I think it'll stabilize the team and everybody will be under the same message, held to the same standard. You know what I mean? I think it was not clicking the same with Stefanski. It's like he would coach some guys a certain way, treat guys a certain way, and the team was off balance with that.
Joseph talked about culture. Sorry, and Coach Stump talked about some of those things as well. Sapphire regarding and here we go. Bronny just tapped in and said Stump for RB coach back in Cleveland.
Let's
I will
go,
dance.
Coach.
I will go outside and dance in the snow. If and when that happens, we obviously want the best in that locker room. The best, I said. Sapphire, I want to ask you as far as some of the hires and Monken filling out his staff. What are your thoughts there?
Well, actually, and this is really a question I have of both Coach Stump and our guest. I mean, I like that Todd Monken has hired a veteran NFL coach. As I understand, Mr. Warhop, this is his second stint, will be his second stint here in Cleveland. You know, he's got a couple of decades of experience. Um, I think one of his greatest students was Joe Thomas. And so
Yeah.
when I reflect on the work, uh, according to his resume that he has, I'm very excited. And it's not that I don't like the Munkin hire. I don't have, as you gentlemen do, the background about him, but I do like the depth and breadth of experience that he is bringing back to the facility, as well as this O line hire.
Can I cut in real quick? Coach Stump prepared us for Monken for weeks, so it was not a surprise for any of us because we've been talking about it. So I think he'll come in. National media doesn't want to get a Browns benefit of doubt on anything. They don't think it's a
Right.
smart move, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think they needed an experienced
Absolutely.
coach who could get the team under control, and I think it was a good hire.
Joseph, you have your ear to this. My guy Joseph has. Uh, he stays up to date. He texts me every other. We text a lot about breaking news. He's my personal Adam Schefter. I don't need Adam Schefter anymore. I got Joseph Letman. So I want to ask you, Joseph, can you shed some light to? I've been talking to Coach Stump about it. Can you shed some light on what the media locally and nationally has been talking about in regards to the Monken hire?
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of like a mixed bag, honestly. I think some people initially were like, what is going on? They thought it was disaster. Then I think they're slowly coming around to it and, starting to rationalize it. And I think just once you hear the facts and you hear what, like, I got a quote here from Kirby Smart and John Harbaugh. Kirby Smart said, quote, his ability to develop quarterbacks and craft game plans tailored to our players' strengths was instrumental to our success. Talk about when they won back-to-back national championships. And then John Harbaugh's is a lot more, shorter, but says a lot. It says Todd is an outstanding coach. He deserves his opportunity, point blank. So I mean, you have guys like that coming out and solidifying who he is as a coach. We heard what Stump says about him, but I think nationally, I think there are some people that I've seen come out there, former players of his, say that they really like him. I know a guy even around here named Blake Williams, a former NFL player, Super Bowl champion, actually trains Feaster. He tweeted out it was a phenomenal hire. He thinks it'll be a great fit. Then you got some people out there that I think are giving horrible advice to Shador. Not going to name any names, but saying you shouldn't listen to the coach and all this. So I think which I don't know if you want to do that, you'll be joining them in the media real soon. So instead of playing on the field, but. No, I mean, I think though, I think people are coming around to it. I think initially it's just how it goes. People are in shock, their emotions, and I think it was like I said earlier, it wasn't something like I know Stunt's been saying for a while, and he said it on my show too a couple weeks ago about Todd Monken, but you just didn't really think they would actually do it because you look at where they've been trending as a franchise. It's been very analytical. They hired Kevin Stefanski back at 2020, excuse me. And that was solely based more analytically, because Paul DePodesta was in the building. So, I think now that he's gone though, and he went to the Rockies, I think this is a kind of a breath of fresh air to me that they're trending more back towards a balance in the organization of football. And I think that's what people are starting to realize. I think once Todd Monken, once they hear them speak, hears him speak at his press conference next week, I think it's early next week, I think the fans will really start to come around to him because he's definitely going to fit the city and the culture, I think, well. You hear him in some interviews on some podcasts in recent months. I mean, he basically told fans middle of the season about the play calling that, yeah, I'm not going to use his verbiage, but, it wasn't any good at some point, he said. And, he took accountability for it. So he's got that edge. He's real and he fits the city, which I think is important. Stefanski's a very nice guy. I think probably a good dude, buttoned down, pretty professional, but he just never really fit. He didn't have that Cleveland edge to me. He just didn't fit the city, and I think that's important. You are what your culture is. And that's how you get the best out of it.
100%. Coach Stump, can you shed some light? And thank you, Joseph. Can you shed some light on the process as far as ownership? How much do you think that Haslam came and just laid the hammer down? Do you think this was a collaborative decision? And how much do owners normally come in and just make their final say? Do you think a GM should handle decisions like hiring a head coach? Give us your thoughts there.
I think if you own something, you do whatever you think you want to do with it. It's your business, regardless of how expensive or not it is. If you own it, you control it. You have the final say. Everybody else is working for you. Let's not forget that. That's the most important thing. And I still hope and pray that they can get Jim Schwartz back in that building because those were my two guys. I wanted both of them. I think they deserve both of them. Defensively, it's great for them, but offensively, that's exactly what they needed for both Shedeur and Deshaun. I think Deshaun is the better of the two, the most athletic. I think Shedeur throws a heck of a ball. So I think there's going to be an opportunity for those guys to compete. And that's exactly what Coach Monken will lay out on the line. You guys are competing, point blank. It's a 1-year deal for everybody, including him, if they don't see things in the way in which they want to see it. That's just the way it is. That's business, So it's no question Todd is the best thing for what they needed offensively because he's a no nonsense guy. Okay, he's running the show now. He's not working for somebody else other than the ownership, but he's in control of that team. And defensively, those guys they're going to play. I mean, I'm praying Jim is back there, and I'm praying he can be the defensive head coach. But we'll see.
Hey, Coach. You knowing Jim personally. Do you think after a couple of days, him, cooler minds prevail, he would come around and say, I'll take a raise and an assistant head coach position and just get back on board?
Well, Jim deserved to be the head coach in Cleveland. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But so does Todd Monken. But Jim,
Right.
I mean, he's already had the opportunity to be a head coach. He came to Cleveland and he did an outstanding job. Uh, yeah, I'm hoping. It's hurt. Does it hurt? Absolutely, it hurts. Hell, I tried to get the Haslam's to give me the job when all the coaches got fired because it hurt, man. We had talent there. We had Baker. We had Odell. We had some guys there, but we didn't have the greatest leadership. Unfortunately, collectively, we weren't able to get things done. Then, Kevin came in and we had good players, made some changes, coach and staff, and we were fortunate. But we changed everything after that second year with Kevin. He started moving coaches around. It's really not good because some of the coaches didn't have the same relationship with players at other positions. Okay, we went to the playoffs. T.C. McCarthy was the quarterback coach. Then they switched to Drew Petzing, and that didn't go so well because the personality of he and Baker just jive. But David became a Pro Bowler because he had TC coaching him. So, it was good in one situation, not so good in another.
Coach, really quick, I want to go back to you regarding Monken and the offense he's bringing in. You think he'll be a more pass dominant offense with the Browns, or you think he'll go to the run games. Sapphire made a very good comment. If we're telling the truth, which is what we do, they went away from Derrick Henry at the Ravens, coming down the seat, coming down. I don't know who made those offensive play calls, but uh, it seemed like they kind of went away from the run game, coming down the stretch there, and it hurt the Ravens' season.
Well, and like he said, you learn from your mistakes, you learn more from others' mistakes. So he's had the opportunity to do both, unfortunately, but all of that experience, the success he had at Georgia, also gives Dylan an opportunity. You can't count Dylan out. Todd, they won the national championship with a smaller quarterback.
Hmm.
Okay, so Dylan is a professional. It's going to be a competition between those guys, and I think Deshaun is going to win out because I think Deshaun is the most talented of them all. He can make stuff happen. He can break tackles. He can run. You know, uh, all three of those guys I think are going to be good quarterbacks under Todd Monken for the Cleveland Browns.
Do you think physically Deshaun will be able to bounce back from the Achilles?
I think he will. Really, he's been out Russ almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So he's been working from the video I've seen. Uh, I don't think he'll be in an offense where he's totally asked to run a heck of a lot, but I think he'll be able to do everything he needs to do. He's got a little more time on rehabbing than most from that injury.
Sapphire, I want to ask you regarding. We're going to jump to the Jim Schwartz and provide some background info there with you and Joseph and Russ. But Sapphire, how do you feel about the possibility and where we're sitting at today of them letting Jim Schwartz walk out the door?
I'm going to agree with Coach Stump. I'm just going to be prayerful that this time tomorrow, those men have figured it out. I just want to say this real quick too, and this is the difference. I'm going to speak for my entire chromosome. When I understood how emotional Coach Stump, not Coach Stump, Coach Schwartz reacted to the news, it made me feel like he was given and under a different impression. For someone to act that emotional at the workplace as what was reported, and this goes back to my sensitivities about what's going on down the street. Are they being real with people? You got to develop, like Coach Stump always talks about, emotional stability. You got to be transparent. You got to be honest. Just whatever the men do in the facilities and on the gridiron, it just makes me wonder if that was not a factor in how he responded to the news. So I just wanted to stick that in there. I just think the world of Coach Schwartz. I think it's incredible what he did with the pieces that he had in Cleveland. And I just hope and pray, as Coach Stump said, they get it figured out.
Russ, did they make the right choice by picking Monken over Jim Schwartz?
I think so. I think getting the offense under control is a more difficult task than finding a replacement coordinator, especially when you could go to the D line coach or the linebacker coach and upgrade them to defensive coordinator. And there's some other defensive coordinators I think available on the market that you might not get the same, I don't know, intensity, X and O that you get with Schwartz, but you got some good players on that defense, and I think you can bring in a guy to replace him. But hopefully, like we all want him back. Hopefully, he comes back.
Joseph, we talked a little bit yesterday about this. Could you provide some insight on not only the rumors, but the factual information that came out about the hiring process? And do you think that hurt or helped them find the right guy?
I think it affected Shorts in this way. Albert Beer put out and he's obviously pretty plugged in. He put out a report today, basically talking about what that was, and it was kind of like I think it was a 6-question essay, and one of those was kind of what's your vision for the quarterback room, because like Russ just pointed out, they're so depleted offensively right now on that side of the ball. They don't have an identity. They don't have who's going to be the quarterback. It's been mismanaged for 6 years. Honestly, under Kevin Stefanski, you had Baker Mayfield, that was mismanaged. You had Deshaun Watson, that was mismanaged. You had Joe Flacco. You didn't bring him back. Then you go with Deshaun and you bring in Ken Dorsey, but you don't let Ken Dorsey call plays for the system, which is the whole reason you brought him in for. So what was the whole point? So it's just been completely mismanaged. And then the whole thing this year with musical quarterbacks, so musical chairs there with the quarterbacks. So I think that was a lot of it. I think he just fits what they need. He's a quarterback developer. He's proven. And Mary Kay Cabot, she kind of has the temperature of what's going on in there. She put out a thing today on the radio show saying how he knows what Deshaun Watson is when he's capable and when he's healthy. He knows what he's capable of. His dual threat mobility, like Stump pointed out. And I think that's something, you're paying a guy $80 million next year. Why not try to get the most out of him? You're going to pay a guy $80 million to sit there in street clothes. I mean, I think Haslam still believes, and a lot of people still believe it could still work. It's going to be challenging. The biggest thing for him is how's his body going to respond. You're coming off, he tore it not once, but twice in a year. So it's going to be tough. I think he learned from I think the first time it sounded like it was more he rushed the process a little bit, and that's why he retore it. So I think he learned from that. But there's nobody more skilled in that room than him. I mean, that guy, he's an all-world talent. We all know that. So that's why they went out and got him and paid what they did. But, yeah, I think that's more the reason why. I think in terms of Jim Schwartz, what I heard is I think he's doing really the job over the weekend. And I think when he didn't get the job, I think he was like, not only did you not hire me, but you hired a guy around my age. And I think he felt kind of slighted by that, as he should. I mean, Jim Schwartz is the best hire this organization's made since '99 in my lifetime as a coach. Maybe other than Bill Callahan and Stump and guys like that. But in terms of like a coordinator for a position group, he's the best I've seen, especially under Haslam's tenure. So I'm sure he feels that way too. You hear the players backing him up. Miles put out his thing yesterday. It seems like he's a little salty about it. So that's a whole nother thing, though. It's like, and Coach, I would want to ask you, because you would know this, because the big question right now everyone's wondering is, okay, if you bring back Schwartz, does that cause division in a locker room? Because some guys wanted Schwartz, and then they got Todd Monken in there now. Could have two different, division in the locker room? Or do you think it's a bigger loss without Schwartz, period, and that still causes dysfunction in the locker room possibly?
Listen, all you doing with those two men are giving them a different name.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with Schwartz for 3 or 4 years. I worked with Todd Monken for 1 year. No nonsense men with different names. The players that they have respect them. Some of them don't particularly care for them because they don't care that you're still making a hell of a lot of money. You have a job to do in order for all of us to be successful. Both of those guys would be just outstanding. The players defensively, they're going to do what they have to do if it don't come to fruition where coach is still there. But I'm hoping he is. But Todd and Jim, they would get together. It would be no issues whatsoever if they were co-head coaches.
Yeah.
They all have one common goal: to be a head coach and to win. They understand complementary football. They understand what that looks like, and you wouldn't be put in a situation where you shouldn't be going for it when you got a lot of time left in the ball game. It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because if I'm the defensive players, I like that this guy's here because he's proven, and we finally have. If we can get an offense that can match our level, I mean, what can we be? We can win the division. We can go as far as we want. I mean, you look at the division right now. To me, it's wide open. There's a lot of improvement. You got two places of different head coaches. How are they going to respond culturally, and just are they going to be the same? Maybe Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh are pretty not easy guys to replace. And then you got Cincinnati, who hit and miss every year. They still, to me, haven't taken that consistent step. But yeah, that's the one that I'm curious about. It's just even after this situation, could they still mend it? And I think they could. I think these are all professionals at the end of the day, and they all understand what's best for the team. And at the end of the day, like Stumps put out, are you just tired of not having that complimentary football? If I'm a defensive player, and if these guys see, if we all see with Deshaun, these guys see it every day. They know what he's capable of. So,
Coach, I want to go. How does Monken come in to stabilize, and what is his first couple of steps to neutralize that locker room and create that culture we've all been kind of hinting on, and filling out his roster. And if Schwartz leaves, obviously it's going to have a domino effect with the different position coaches on the defensive side of the ball. So how does that affect the defensive side of the ball as well?
Well, when you're talking about players, okay, Jim, if they don't make that happen, the first thing Todd is going to do is to address the elephant in the room, which is I understand you guys wanting Coach Schwartz. I played against you twice a year, and we were lucky or fortunate or better, one game or another, to even win because defense against the Ravens was never the problem for the most part, unless they stayed on the field too long. Even with Joe Woods, defense played well against the Ravens. So right now, the Browns really are in position to win that division, and they could, if they were to keep Coach Schwartz, they can blow it out of the water. I really think so. I'm hoping again and praying more so than hoping that they can find a way to make it happen. Again, I'll say they were the first to make Deshaun's contract totally guaranteed. They can find a way to make this happen as well. Because at some point in time, a couple of years maybe from now, somebody's going to have two head coaches.
Russ, could you dive in and talk about what do you think is next with Jim Schwartz? Let's say I don't think he's coming back. I think when the guy packs his bags and says goodbye, unless they put a $10 million price on him, he's probably already booked his flight. I don't care about he has a contract with the Browns. I think he's not coming back. Russ, what's next with Jim Schwartz, in your opinion? Where do you think he's headed?
He might have to settle for an analyst job. He might sit out a year, and we see him on pregame show, ESPN or Fox. I don't know what's his take on that, but I'm sure some college positions opens available. See who else needs to coach Arizona
49ers.
49ers.
I think the 49ers, I just read a story. They're looking at 2 or 3 other guys. I'm sure they would love to have Schwartz too there, but is that where Bubba just went? Did he go to
He went to the Rams.
Yeah. The Rams.
So,
Wait a minute, Bubba Ventrone got a job?
yeah, he got a job. Yeah,
okay, well,
congratulations to him.
Congrats, Bubba Ventrone. He's resilient. Got to give him that.
Yeah. But I think there's Schwartz. He'll find work. I don't think that's a problem for him. He'll find some work.
Sapphire and feeding off of that. Bubba Ventrone and Stefanski took the high road. I didn't take the high road. Stefanski won't be in Atlanta long, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts, Sapphire, regarding Jim Schwartz? Where you think he could land? What are your thoughts on Bubba Ventrone getting another job that we just have been enlightened by?
I don't have any thoughts on former Browns coaches. I just want to put it all behind me. It's been a nightmare. I'm just thankful we're fresh, we're new. As it relates to Coach Schwartz, I think the first thing I want to say is I hope that he and the Browns organization are listening to Coach Stump right now. I really do. And it would break my heart to see him in Pittsburgh. Because I'm going to say something, gentlemen. The one thing I can say, because I watched the presser that Mr. McCarthy gave, and it brought tears to my eyes. And I'm not ashamed of saying that. Hometown guy goes back to coach his NFL team. He spoke with passion. And the biggest thing he said that touched my heart was that defense wins championships. And this goes back to everything we're talking about with Coach Schwartz. And I'm going to sound like the poster child. I hope these men get it figured out.
We're going to flip back over to our guy, Joseph. Moving forward with the Browns and where we're sitting today, are you happy? How do you feel about the Browns organization as of right now, based on the information we have?
I feel pretty good. I mean, here, obviously, I wanted Schwartz to stay too. I don't think he's going to stay. The fact that what happened internally got out as fast as it did, I found that kind of like, He was not only upset but wanted to make it known, and I don't
Right.
think he has any. I think he's probably a little bitter, obviously, as he moves on. So, but he'll get a job. I mean, if the Raiders and they hire a coach, they'll need a DC. If they go with Kubiak or Pittsburgh, I think that's a good option as well. And then that's probably where I could see him going there just to stick it to the Browns if he's that upset with them. But as far as the Browns, though, here my only thing is here's what I want the first thing to be with starting with Haslam to Barry is can I give my head coach the full autonomy finally to do what he wants to do? Because I don't think that's been the case here at times over the years. And if Todd Monken gets in the draft day and he wants a certain guy over and Andrew Berry sees a different way, I would want to offensively. I want to go with Todd Monken's opinion personally, and it's his offense at the end of the day. If he has a plan and a vision for somebody, I think if I'm Andrew Berry, I got to lean on that. I know that the analytics may point a different direction, or maybe they could agree. And I know one thing I read about Tom Monk, and he actually is very open to analytics. He uses his information. He's a pretty balanced coach, which I think is going to fit well with this. He's the balance they need in that organization. He's going to be the stabilizer. I'm hoping. And in terms of filling out a staff, I mean, he already came in with a home run with George Warhop. I mean, that's a guy Joe Thomas has been pushing for behind the scenes for a couple of years. But he developed Joe Thomas, developed Alex Mack. Joe Thomas even talked about yesterday on the in-house radio show about it. This guy took a lot of 4th, 5th round, 6th guys and made them into dudes. And so that's the kind of guy we need because this isn't going to be a one-off season fix of that line. I don't know if they have anybody under contract right now. So it's going to take some time. It takes a little bit to Rome wasn't built in a day. So I think they got to get some guys in there they can develop and have a plan for. But I think he has all the history he has. Why I like him more than the younger guys I could have went with is because he has connections. He already brought this guy in. He could probably bring more guys in from the old Ravens staff, who looks like a pretty good staff. Obviously, he's got connections all around the league. So that's to me that's most important. Those two things. Does he have the autonomy? Which I don't think he probably wouldn't have took that job if he didn't have that sense. And I think they've learned from the past a little bit. I would hope. And then 2, he can build out a staff because I think what makes a great head coach to me is the staff he builds around him. When Kevin and they made those changes in 23 when they let go of coach and the AVP and basically let Bill Callahan out the door for nothing. I don't think they really cared either. Look how fast they deteriorated in 2 years. It's now they're the worst offense in football by far.
Coach
It happened
Stump,
overnight.
Coach Stump, why don't you talk about the draft room and the drafting process? Joseph just mentioned that he hopes they give the head coach full autonomy. And Joseph, my grandma used to say, people in hell want ice water. So I really don't expect them to change overnight. Coach Stumps always talks about people learning over time from other people's mistakes. Coach Stump, given your experience with that, how do you predict that the Browns will approach the upcoming draft and drafts in the next 2-3 years?
I don't know how they're going to approach it. I know how they should approach it. Okay, you take Todd Monken because you have 2 quarterbacks there that have talent, but they're just not on the right track. That's the first thing Todd is going to do. He's going to teach them from A to Z what they need to do, how they need to do it. Okay, and he's going to allow those guys to make plays. Shador getting rid of the ball. He's not going to be taking no dang on 15, 10, 12-yard sacks. That's not happening. Okay, he'll find himself number 3 real quickly. Okay, he may be 1 or 2 right now going in, but that thing is going to change. Those guys are going to have to do what they're supposed to do from the quarterback position. Everybody know they need offensive linemen. They need offensive linemen. That's why you get a guy like Todd Monken to take over that offense because he can do some stuff. He can do more things with Deshaun than he can with Shador. But Shador is a heck of a passer. I mean, and he did run the ball a little better last year. He made some bonehead mistakes. The interception he threw the last game of the season. I mean, just a rookie deal. But Shador has never been coached really by anyone other than Dion, his father. He's had position coaches, but the only person he was listening to really was his father. So he didn't care whether someone said one thing. He was going to do whatever he felt like doing. and that's it. That's not going to happen now. He's going to become the quarterback that he didn't think he could become. He's going to find himself with Todd Monken because he's going to make sure he's doing the right thing. Uh, it's got to be a way for the Haslam's to understand. Look, we're going all in. We want to win. We're going to find a way. We're going to just be the first ones to have two head coaches. They're grown ass men. They know how to communicate. We got one goal, and that's to win. And we're going to play complementary football. They understand that.
Want to say hello to Jen Victoria, George Mallory. Russ, I want to take this, towards our final thoughts here. There's still some other coaches out there: Stillhouse, Anthony Lynn, Brian Flores. Um, you like any of those guys to help? The great Stump Mitchell, right?
Well, Flores is off the market because he signed the defensive coordinator position with the Vikings. So, since we didn't, bring him as a head coach candidate, he's off the market. Anthony Lynn, I don't think any of those guys are available. We're looking at, we need special teams coordinator and defensive coordinator. So I think we might hire within on the defensive side. I'm not sure where they're going with special teams, but Coach Stump would know better than any of us guys out there that can actually coach the position and get us in a position to actually win games and not lose games on special teams. At least be complimentary. That's what we're looking for. I kind of want to touch a little bit on the draft and Shedeur. Question for you, Coach Stump. Let's say Shedeur wins the job. Do you think he can take a leap, kind of like what Drake May did this past season? I'm not going to say he could be as good as Drake May, but at least eliminate some of those mistakes he was making, just throwing the ball up or turning his back. You think Coach Monken can get him out of those bad habits?
I don't even think about that. I know he will. Shedeur wants to be on the field. Okay, he's gonna see Deshaun working. It's gonna, yeah, he'll break Shedeur of some of those things. If a kid don't have to do something, he's not gonna do it. That's just the way it is. And especially with these young men right now, they're making more money uh, social media, than they are getting paid by the Browns unless they're making got a big time contract. Shador will be fine. Deshaun will be fine. Monken would be is going to be outstanding. That offensive line, I guarantee you, Joe Patonio now is thinking about coming back. Ain't no question in my mind. He's thinking about coming back because of George. Even though it's late in his career, he don't want to go out the way he's been out the last couple of years. Even if he's not coming back as a starter, which he probably will. But he can back up every position on the offense, on that offensive line.
That's a good point because if you can get him back, that makes it more flexible in the draft of what you're looking at. I think number one, they need to go get weapons. You can get linemen, and then, a lot of the mock drafts I've been tooling around with. You can get linemen, third round, second round, fifth round. You're going to need a center. You need a guard. You need a tackle. You might need to draft two tackles, but you definitely have to get wide receivers. I'm going, and I said this before. You need those first first round picks. I'm drafting wide receiver if they're available. Mekhi Lemon, Jalen Tyson. I need two of those guys, and a punt returner. We need a punt returner too.
Sapphire, I want you to touch on something. I think that you and I and Russ and Joseph all of us can really be appreciative of. You got to look at the silver lining. The Browns have given us more drama and more content. We're not hunting for content. We're not digging. We're not doing clickbait. We can just tell the real story, and it's exciting because Coach Stump out here in northeastern Ohio, it's been like watching a soap opera or a Survivor. That show called Survivor. You don't know what's coming next. As we did our impromptu special edition podcast tonight, I think we have more content than the Cowboys, who normally is the talk of the NFL. So Sapphire, can you talk about your appreciation for the drama and the heartbreak and everything we've been through as Browns fans?
I'll sum it up like this. I'm a businesswoman, my day job, and half the conversations that I'm having with my clients are about the Cleveland Browns. And some, especially the men, it's kind of set me back. They're very emotional. These are people of a certain age that are wondering, are the Browns going to get structured and organized enough for fans just to be focusing on the team versus all of this drama? It's just, I've never lived at a time where there's so much uncertainty with the direction of an organization. It's nonsensical. So I hope things calm down, right? That's just my perspective, the people that I talk to, so we can just get to watching football.
Joseph, give us your closing thoughts on what we talked about tonight, and what do you think is going to happen in the near future in the next two or
Well,
3 days?
yeah, I mean, I have pretty good confidence where he can go with this. Like I said, I think he's gonna be the stabilizer. You talk about a center. The Ravens center is a 25-year-old three-time Pro Bowler. Well, guess what? He's a free agent. His offensive line coach is here. So Tyler Linderbaum, I think that's a guy that can go at. And I would throw all kinds of. You need linemen. That's a guy you should pay. And I understand that I played center, so I understand how important that position is. So I think if you could solidify that, I think if you get in the draft, you get some linemen. You have a coach now that, like Joe Thomas talking about. No matter what round you take, if you take the right guy, you feel like you can get the most out of him. Uh, and I think a guy who's really going to benefit from this, you look at when he was at Georgia with Brock Bowers, is Harold Fannin. I think what Harold Fannin could do in this offense with Todd Monken could be unbelievable. I mean, I think he's going to be a guy that's really going to benefit from him. Uh, I like Makai Lemon in the draft. Like a guy like that who's can intermediate routes, can play outside the hash, can run a nine. I think if you get a guy like that, like Zay Flowers, did a lot of those type of things. I think that's what fits his offense. But I have confidence in him. I think the biggest hire I think he'll make for his staff, I think will be and one of the biggest hires. I mean, obviously, we got to see what happens with Schwartz at DC, but I think his run game coordinator with his OC, I think that's going to be important because I think when Bill Callahan was here in 23 and all those years, you saw when he left, it just didn't look the same to me. You look at the averages of those years. I think the run game coordinator is going to be very important as well because Monken's more of an air raid guy. And I think if he can find that guy to mesh his system with, I think Anthony Lynn actually might not be a terrible guy to look at because you look at his history with the running game. Um, and he's also an experienced guy, and he seems like a good dude too, from what I always remember about him. And so I feel pretty good about it. Even if obviously, like I said, I like Schwartz to stay here, but I think that ship sailed. But do I have confidence Todd Monken will get the right people in here to fit him and his culture? Absolutely. I mean, maybe Raheem Morris or somebody out there. I'm sure he's got somebody in mind. He can. I mean, and look at you're walking into Myles Garrett, the best player in football, in my opinion. So that's a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Coach
but
Stump,
I hope that ship hasn't sailed because this is the first year, okay, that Miles Garrett has had more sacks than any year under Joe Woods. Until this season, this is the first time Miles has had more sacks than he did with Joe Woods. So it's taken some time for that to happen. Somebody else come in with a whole different mindset. You can't underestimate what those guys have done under Jim Schwartz this past year. When you didn't have an offense, one of the worst offenses in the league, and they were in the top four, the top five, and I think they might have been number two in some area there defensively. So
Mhm.
they need to find a way
Yeah.
to bring Jim Schwartz back. I
Oh, I
guarantee
agree.
the thing Todd Monkey want is a defense. He
Yeah.
wants a defense. You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to worry about that phase of the game because you had too many issues on offense and special teams.
Yeah.
You have to fix and devote time to those areas. So they definitely need to find a way to make it work. I mean, they need to bring Schwartz back. He need to be the dang on co-head coach.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I just don't see it happen just based off where I think the temperature is with him. It just what it seems like. I hope you're right though. I'm with you because I think Schwartz's greatest asset is his development. I mean, before he got here, look, you remember all the guys on that defense. You were there, JOK, and guys people were giving up on him. Schwartz
Well,
comes
listen,
in here and he takes him to the next level. I think Schwartz, how he's developed. Look at Devin Bush, how he revitalized his career here.
Delpit.
That's a hard trait to replace, and it's almost
listen.
sometimes irreplaceable.
Schwartz is not the only person that's disappointed. He's not the only one that they've overlooked that's been in that building. Hell,
Mhm.
Ashton Grant, a younger guy, was in that building, and they didn't even take a look at him as a quarterback coach when they was looking for a quarterback coach, a guy who knew the offense. They brought in a couple guys that that didn't make it happen. So Andrew has overlooked some people. There's no question about that. But right now, I'm hoping he'll hear and see what Schwartz did and don't take it for granted and find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, now
Russ,
Ashton's in the Super Bowl too, so shout out to him.
Yeah.
Russ, give us your final thoughts, Russ.
I don't really have anything else. I just hope we can get it all together. Monkey can turn it around. Judkins can come back, run strong. We get some good receivers, some weapons in the offense. I think to go with Fannin, and go Browns. Maybe we can make the playoff. You know what? I think we can win the division next season.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. I mean, I think they can win the division, especially. I mean, Jim deserved to be back there. He deserved to be head coach. I mean,
Yeah.
the last 2 years, the defense been playing relatively well, and they haven't been playing no type of complimentary football. So
I think
he,
the key to that, if we could keep the offensive line relatively healthy, everything else will fall in place. Whoever is the starters, whatever, if he can get Lindenbaum, if DeWan can come back and play a full season, if we can keep those guys healthy, I think we can win the division.
yeah.
Sapphire, give us your final thoughts.
I think what Russ said is a stretch. I think this is going to be a multi-year build, and once again, please God, please let Berea be listening to Coach Stump on this podcast tonight. That's what I got.
Look what the Patriots did in one season. It can happen overnight.
Yeah,
Joseph,
several Browns on there too. Former
Joseph, give us your final
Yeah.
thoughts on all this. Well, a culmination of what we've talked about tonight.
No, I agree. I agree with Coach. I mean, and what he just said. It can happen overnight if you get the right mix. All it takes is a little lightning in the bottle, and these players are looking for it. Coach and I talked before my show. And we just feel bad for these players, and I know, Coach, you have a personal relationship with these guys. I mean, they're dying to just have an opportunity again, to have that hope, even in the building. Us as fans want it, but how do you think these guys feel? That's their livelihood every day, and I think they just need somebody to go in there and just spark that culture in there, light a fire. I think if I was him, kind of like what Kirk Signetti did when he went to Indiana. He said, "Stop talking like we're losers. Stop. Get that out of your head. What happened? We're starting fresh. We got everything we need here. We're going to have a great draft. We're going to have a great off season. We're going to go out there. We're going to bounce back, and we're going to go win the division." Like, that's what I want to hear, and that's what those guys probably want to hear. And you can do it overnight. And like he said, I mean, look what Vrabel did. I'm not surprised. I know a little bit about Vrabel. He's from the same city as me, so I know his background and who he is. And I'm not surprised what he did. And he came here like coach there for 1 year, identified Ashton Grant, and look what he's done with Drake May as a quarterback coach. So I mean, all it takes is just a little something special. You mix it all together. That's what we just haven't had for a little bit. But I think, yeah, anything's possible. You never know. And that it's set up perfectly for them to go win that division next year because it's anybody's to grab.
Joseph, I appreciate your enthusiasm. Russ, I appreciate your enthusiasm. You know where I'm going with this. Me and Sapphire live on a similar planet called Earth, and there's no such thing as a quick fix. There's quick oatmeal and quick grits, but there ain't no quick fix. And we're talking about sports. I also want to say our run game coordinator is right. He's right there next to you, Joseph. Coach Stump Mitchell. He's the guy that should be in that room. A fan favorite. I've gotten 5 or 6 calls and text messages. Coach Stump, people act like I can hit a red button and get you right back in Berea. And if I could, I would already hit it. But the people of Ohio would love to have you back. You've done some great things in this community, in the city, and you're part of the folklore here and always will be. Coach, close us out tonight. Talk to Coach Todd Monken. Talk to the Browns fans. What's on your mind?
Well, Coach Todd Monken is going to do exactly what it has to do. I think for all three of those quarterbacks, they got the right guy because they're going to have to compete against one another, and the best guy is going to win the job. It's that plain and simple. I mean, at Georgia, he didn't have a big guy. He had a guy similar to Gabriel, and they won a couple national championships. He's got Deshaun, okay, and he's got Shador. At some point in time, all of those guys are going to get an opportunity to start a preseason game, and he's going to go from there. But their work is going to get done on the mechanics of playing the quarterback position, and I just hope more so than anything now that Coach Schwartz is back there because he deserved to be there, but so does Todd. I mean, Todd is there because Shador sells a lot of dang on tickets. You get a guy in there that can train the quarterbacks to play. Now you get a chance to move your dang on draft picks and fix that team much sooner than if you don't have someone that can take care of those guys. So I like the hire, but like I've always said, I wish it can be both of them because I like what both of those guys have done there with the Browns.
Thank you, Coach Stump. Thank you, Sapphire. Thank you, Russell Johnson, the Oracle. Our guest, Joseph Lampman from The Real. Go check out his show on Sundays. Hello to the Browns backers from T County. Hello to Here We Go Brownies. Uh, Sam LeClever from The Beard. Everyone who tuned in. George Mallory and our number one advocate and fan, Jim Victoria. We love you guys. Thank you for joining us.